European leaders are gathered in Berlin to show support and discuss Ukraine's interests ahead of US President Donald Trump's meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. European leaders, along with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, held an online meeting with US President Donald Trump. Zelensky and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz gave their statement after their call with Trump. Both leaders said that include Zelensky in your talks. Merz says Europeans are doing everything they can to help set the agenda. Merz stressed that a legal recognition of Russian ownership of Ukraine cannot happen. He added that Ukraine must be at the table following the Trump-Putin summit. Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron says only Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky can negotiate any territory deal.
Territorial questions concerning Ukraine can be and will be negotiated only by the Ukrainian president. This is the position that we support. It was very clearly expressed by President Trump.
Merz also said that if there is no movement from Russia towards peace, then Europe and the United States will have to put more pressure on Putin. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian president expressed optimism following his call with the US president. Zelensky further added that Trump will be in touch with him right after the meeting with Putin ends. Let's talk to Dr. Charles Kupchan, who's a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations, CFR. He's now joining us live from Washington, D.C. Dr. Kupchan, thank you very much for joining us and making time for us. Let me just update you on what has happened so far. French President and German Chancellor are saying that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky can negotiate a land deal with Russia, and he should also be part of the discussions between Putin and Trump. And also, the NATO chief, that is Ursula von der Leyen, says that Europe and the United States and NATO have strengthened the common ground for Ukraine and are united to end the war in Ukraine. What do you think will happen in the next 48 hours before the meeting?
Well, clearly the Europeans are worried that Trump is going to make a deal with Putin over the heads of the Ukrainians and over the heads of the Europeans. That's why they've gathered today. That's why they had this joint phone call with Donald Trump to say, hey, we need to work together. Don't make a deal that we can't live with. What's going to happen in the next couple of days? You know, I think the groundwork is going to be laid for this meeting in Alaska. We don't have a good sense as to whether, when Steve Witkoff was in Moscow last week, did he arrive at some framework that gives Trump optimism that he can cut an acceptable deal with Putin? We don't know. And as your report just showed, there was a major breakthrough in eastern Ukraine over the last couple of days. The Russians have advanced some 17 kilometers. They've broken an important defensive line. That, in some respects, puts Russia in a more advantageous position when Putin meets Trump in Alaska on Friday.
Dr. Kupchan, what does that mean? What does that signify now that Russia has gained ground? Do you think it's forcing Ukraine to retreat? And what advantage will that be in the talks?
Well, I do think that in the immediate aftermath of the Putin-Trump meeting, there will be a discussion with Zelensky, a discussion with Europeans. Will the Ukrainians be somewhat more willing to compromise, to work with Trump and Russia to get a deal if they're losing ground in eastern Ukraine? Yes. I think this breakthrough is an important development in the overall diplomatic landscape. The Ukrainians do face manpower shortages. They do face weapons shortages. And this breakthrough is a sign of the asymmetries that exist on the battlefield. So the timing is not good for Zelensky because it weakens his hands when it comes to a possible land swap in eastern Ukraine, as well as the overall nature of the deal that's struck, particularly what is the status, what is the independence, what is the sovereignty of the 80% of Ukraine that is likely to remain on the other side of any ceasefire line, the part of Ukraine still controlled by Ukrainians.
All right, Dr. Kupchen, good to see you. We'll have to end it there. Thank you for talking to us today.
Bye-bye.